The space station called Harmony Ring floated in the dark emptiness between three star systems. It was a massive structure, built by dozens of alien species working together over many centuries. The station served as neutral ground where different civilizations could meet, trade, and talk without fear of war. Every year, the Galactic Unity Summit brought representatives from thousands of worlds to this place. Minho Beak was not a diplomat. He was an engineer. His job was to keep the engines running on the human ship called Iron Will. He was a quiet man with strong hands and tired eyes. His wife had died 4 years ago from an illness that even the best human doctors could not cure. Now he raised his daughter alone. June was 8 years old. She had her mother's smile and her father's curious nature. When Minho received orders to join the diplomatic mission, he had no choice but to bring her along. There was no family left on Earth to watch her. The captain had agreed, saying that a child might even help show the aliens that humans were peaceful people. The first 2 days on the station went well. June stayed close to her father while he worked in the engine room. She played with her tablet and drew pictures of the strange aliens she saw through the windows. The Calori were tall and covered in hard plates like armor. The Veth were small and had too many eyes. The Drennan floated in special water tanks because they could not breathe air. On the third day, Minho had to fix a problem deep inside the ship's reactor. It was dangerous work, and children were not allowed in that section. He asked Lieutenant Hana Yoon to watch June for a few hours. Hana was the security chief. She was a small woman with short black hair and eyes that never seemed to rest. Before joining the space program, she had served in the military for 15 years. She was not good with children, but she agreed to help. For 2 hours, June sat quietly in the common room, drawing pictures. Then she saw something through the window that made her gasp. A merchant was selling small creatures that glowed with blue light. They looked like tiny dragons made of crystal. June looked around. Hana was talking to another officer about security matters. The market was just down the corridor, maybe 50 steps away. She would only look for a minute. She slipped out of the room. The market on Harmony Ring was a wonder of colors and sounds and smells. Aliens of every shape moved between the stalls. Some walked on 2 legs, some on 4, some on none at all. June walked slowly, her eyes wide with amazement. She forgot about the time. She forgot about the rules. She did not notice when she crossed into the restricted zone. Commander Veleth was having a bad day. The Calori officer stood nearly 3 meters tall. Her body was covered in natural armor plates, the color of dark bronze. She had 4 arms, each one ending in fingers that could crush metal. Her face was flat and wide, with small eyes that burned with constant anger. Veleth hated the Unity Summit. She hated standing guard while politicians talked about peace and cooperation. The Calori were warriors. They had conquered dozens of worlds before joining the Galactic Council. Now they were forced to smile and pretend that weaker species were their equals. And the worst of all were the humans. Veleth had read the reports about Earth. A death world, they called it. A planet so dangerous that most species would die within hours of landing there. The humans had evolved on this terrible world, surrounded by predators and poison and natural disasters. They were small and soft and had no natural weapons. Yet somehow they had survived. Somehow they had reached the stars. The other species feared the humans. They whispered about Deathworlders and their strange abilities. Veleth, this was foolish. Humans were tiny creatures. They broke easily. She had seen the medical reports dot when she saw the small human child wandering alone in the restricted corridor. Something dark rose up inside her. The child was looking at a display of alien artwork, completely unaware of the danger. She was so small, so fragile. so easy to break. Velith marched toward her, her security team following close behind. June heard the heavy footsteps and turned around. She looked up at the massive alien and felt her heart freeze with fear. The Kalori was like a monster from her nightmares, tall and armored and angry. She tried to speak. She tried to say she was sorry, that she had made a mistake, that she would go back to her father right away. But no words came out. She was too scared. Commander Velith looked down at the tiny creature. In her hand, she held her ceremonial staff, a weapon made of dense metal that had been passed down through her family for generations. It was a symbol of her rank and her honor. She raised the staff high. Several aliens in the corridor turned to watch. None of them moved to help. None of them said a word. They were afraid of the Kalori. The staff came down. It struck June across the face with terrible force. The sound of breaking bone echoed through the corridor. The little girl flew backward and hit the wall. She slid down to the floor and did not move. Blood began to pool beneath her head. Velith felt satisfaction wash through her. That would teach the Deathworlders to control their offspring. She turned to her security team. One of them looked uncomfortable, but he said nothing. They were Kalori. They followed orders. She filed a report with station security, claiming that the human child had attacked her and she had defended herself. The surveillance systems in this corridor had been damaged for months. There would be no evidence to say otherwise. Or so she thought. An hour later, a station medic found June lying in her own blood. They rushed her to the medical bay and contacted the human delegation. When Lieutenant Hana arrived and saw the little girl's broken face, she felt something cold settle into her chest. She had failed. She had promised to watch the child, and she had failed. But her guilt quickly turned to ice-cold fury when she saw the medical report. The injury pattern was wrong. A defensive strike would not shatter the cheekbone like this. This was an attack from above. A blow meant to hurt, not to stop. She called Captain Taiho. Park. The captain was a tall man with gray at his temples and a face that rarely showed emotion. He had commanded ships for 20 years. He had seen wars and disasters and the deaths of good people. Very little surprised him anymore. But when he saw the footage that Hana had found, his hands began to shake. The surveillance system in the main corridor had not been damaged. It had captured everything. It showed a small human girl looking at artwork. It showed Commander Velith approaching with her staff raised. It showed the blow, the blood, the body falling. Taiho watched it 3 times. Then he closed the file and sat in silence for a long moment. When Minho arrived at the medical bay, his daughter was floating in a healing tank. Her face was wrapped in bandages. Machines beeped and hummed around her. The doctors said she would live, but there would be scars. There might be brain damage. They would not know until she woke up. Minho stood at the window of the tank and looked at his little girl. His wife had died in a room just like this one, surrounded by machines and doctors who could not save her. Now his daughter lay broken because an alien had decided to teach humans a lesson. Something inside Minho went quiet. He stopped speaking. He stopped reacting. He simply stood there, watching his daughter float in the blue healing fluid. The other humans noticed the change. They had seen Minho angry before. They had seen him sad. But this was different. This was silence. This was the calm before a storm that would shake the stars. Captain Taiho called a meeting of the senior staff. He showed them the footage. He showed them the medical reports. He showed them the Kalori's official claim that the child had attacked first. Then he told them his plan. They would not riot. They would not attack. They would not give the galaxy any reason to call humans violent or dangerous. Instead, they would use the law. They would use the Galactic Council's own rules against them. He had found something in the ancient texts. A forgotten law from the early days of the Council. a ritual called the rite of witness judgment. It had not been used in 600 cycles, but it had never been removed from the books, and it was exactly what they needed. The captain made a single announcement to his crew. His voice was calm and steady, but everyone could hear the steel beneath his words. We handled this properly, by their laws, in their court. And when we are finished, the galaxy will never forget what happens when you hurt a human child. The aliens on Harmony. Ring did not understand why the humans seemed so calm. The Kalori expected anger. They expected threats. They expected the small, soft creatures to rage and cry and beg for justice. Instead, the humans smiled, politely, quietly, patiently. It was the most terrifying thing the aliens had ever seen. The Galactic Council Chamber was the largest room ever built by living creatures. It sat at the heart of the Council's headquarters, a massive structure that orbited a dying star. The chamber could hold representatives from all 4,000 member species at once. Giant screens floated in the air, allowing beings of every size to see and hear what happened on the central platform. Today, the chamber was in chaos. Captain Taiho Park stood alone on the speaking platform. He was small compared to most of the aliens watching him. His simple gray uniform looked plain next to the elaborate robes and armor worn by other diplomats. But his voice was steady as he spoke into the translation device. I invoke the right of witness judgment. The words echoed through the chamber. For a moment, there was only silence. Then the noise began. Thousands of aliens started talking at once. Some were confused. Some were angry. Some were afraid. High Arbiter Solom raised one of his many hands, calling for order. The Arbiter was ancient, even by galactic standards. His species lived for thousands of years, and he had served on the Council for most of his long life. His body was like a great tree made of stone, with branches that moved like arms and eyes that glowed with soft golden light. He looked down at the small human with something like curiosity. Captain Park, he said, his voice rumbling through the chamber like distant thunder. The right of witness judgment has not been invoked in 600 cycles. Are you certain you understand what you are asking for? Taiho nodded. I understand completely, High Arbiter. A member of the Kalori military attacked a human child without cause. She nearly killed an 8-year-old girl. The Kalori have filed a false report claiming self-defense. I have evidence that proves otherwise. I demand that this matter be settled before the full council, with all member species as witnesses. The chamber erupted again. The Kalori section was especially loud. Ambassador Reith pushed his way to a speaking platform, his forearms waving frantically. This is outrageous, he shouted. Commander Velith is a decorated officer. She acted in defense of herself and her crew. This human child was in a restricted area. She was a threat. Taiho turned to face the Kalori ambassador. His expression did not change. She weighs 23 kilograms, he said calmly. She is 8 years old. She was looking at artwork when your commander struck her from behind with a metal staff. Would you like me to show the footage to the council? Ambassador Reith went pale. His mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. He had not known about the footage. High Arbiter Solom leaned forward. You have evidence, Captain Park? I do. Full surveillance footage from the main corridor. Medical reports from the station's doctors. Witness statements from aliens who saw the attack but were too afraid to speak against a Kalori officer. Taiho held up a small device. Everything is here. The chamber fell silent again. Every eye, every sensor, every attention-focusing organ was fixed on the small human and his evidence device. High Arbiter Solom was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke, his voice heavy with ancient authority. Under the laws of this council, the right of witness judgment cannot be refused. Captain Park has invoked it correctly. The trial will take place in 3 days. Commander Veleth will answer for her actions before all member species. He turned his golden eyes toward the Calori section. Ambassador Reith, you will ensure that Commander Veleth appears in this chamber. If she does not, the Calori Empire will face sanctions that will last 1,000 years. Ambassador Reith bowed his head. He had no choice but to obey Dot after the session ended. Reith rushed to find Captain Taiho. He caught up with the human in a quiet corridor. Away from the crowds. Captain Park, please, he said, his voice desperate. We can solve this without the right. Name your price. Medical care for the child. Money. Land on one of our colony worlds. Anything you want. Taiho stopped walking. He turned to face the Calori ambassador. For a moment, Reith felt a strange sensation. It took him a second to recognize it. Fear. He was afraid of this small, soft creature. I want Commander Veleth in that chamber, Taiho said. His voice was quiet, almost gentle. That is all I want. You do not understand, Reith insisted. The right of witness judgment allows for the right of equal measure. If you invoke that clause, it will mean combat. Veleth is a trained warrior. She has killed dozens of enemies in battle. Your people are not fighters. You will die. Ho smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who knew something that others did not. Bring Commander Veleth to the chamber, he said. Then he walked away. Back on the Iron Will, Minho Beak had not moved from his daughter's side. He sat in a chair next to her healing tank, holding her small hand through the special glove built into the tank's wall. His eyes were fixed on her face. He had not eaten in 2 days. He had not slept. Lieutenant Hana stood at the door, watching him. She had tried to talk to him several times, but he never responded. He was somewhere else. Somewhere dark and quiet and dangerous. She had seen this before. In the military, she had known soldiers who went to that place after losing someone they loved. Some of them never came back. Some of them came back as something different. Something that scared even their friends. She walked over to Minho and placed a hand on his shoulder. Minho, she said softly, the captain has invoked the right. There will be a trial in 3 days. Minho did not respond. His eyes stayed on his daughter. Hana tried again. The right allows for combat, Minho. If you want, you can be the one to face her. You can be June's representative. For the first time in 3 days, Minho moved. He turned his head slowly and looked at Hana. His eyes were empty. No anger, no sadness, nothing at all. He nodded once. Then he turned back to his daughter. Hana left the room. She found Captain Taiho in his office, reviewing the ancient laws of the council. He will do it, she said. Minho will be the representative. Taiho nodded. He did not look surprised. Good, he said. I was hoping he would. Captain. Hana said carefully. The Calori do not know what they are dealing with. They think humans are weak because we are small and soft. They do not understand what we really are. I know, Taiho said. He leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes. That is why I chose this path. We could have demanded money or land or an apology. We could have filed complaints and waited for the council to make a decision. But that would not change anything. The galaxy would still think humans are easy targets. He opened his eyes and looked at Hana. After this trial, they will never think that again. In the following days, something strange happened across the galaxy. Species that had never paid attention to humans began researching them. They pulled up files on Earth. They read reports from the few alien scientists who had visited the human homeworld. What they found disturbed them. Earth was classified as a death world, one of the most dangerous planets in the known galaxy. The gravity was crushing. The atmosphere was filled with a corrosive gas called oxygen. The weather could kill in minutes, with hurricanes and tornadoes and floods and fires. The native life was even worse. Predators with massive teeth. Tiny creatures that carried deadly diseases. Plants that produced poison. Insects that could kill with a single sting. And the humans had not just survived there. They had conquered. They had hunted their planet's greatest predators to extinction. They had tamed the land and the sea and the sky. They had spread across every corner of their deadly world, adapting to frozen wastelands and burning deserts and everything in between. The aliens read about human history and felt sick. Humans had fought each other constantly for thousands of years. They had invented weapons of terrible destruction. They had survived wars that would have wiped out most species entirely. And through it all, they had kept going. They had never given up. They had never stopped fighting. One report caught the attention of many readers. It was written by a Veth scientist who had studied humans for decades. At the end of her analysis, she had written a warning. Humans are not dangerous because they are strong. They are dangerous because they do not know how to stop. They will chase a prey animal for days until it collapses from exhaustion. They will rebuild cities that have been destroyed by natural disasters, again and again, in the same dangerous locations. They will fight enemies that are bigger, stronger, and better armed. And they will keep fighting until they win or die. That do not make an enemy of humans. They are small and soft and fragile, but they are also relentless. And they protect their young with a fury that defies all reason. On the day before the trial, Ambassador Reith made one final attempt to stop what was coming. He went to the human ship and requested a meeting with Captain Taiho. The captain agreed to see him. Reith walked through the human vessel with growing unease. The corridors were narrow and the ceilings were low. The air was thick with that strange oxygen gas that humans needed to breathe. Everything about the ship felt wrong. He found Captain Taiho in a small meeting room. The human was drinking a dark liquid from a ceramic cup. He gestured for Reith to sit down. Ambassador, Taiho said. I assume you are here to make another offer. Please, Reith said. He was beyond pride now. He was afraid. I have read the reports on your species. I understand now what I did not understand before. Commander Veleth attacked a child. I know this was wrong, but if you invoke the right of equal measure, it will mean violence. It will mean blood. Is that what you want? Taiho set down his cup. The grand chamber of judgment was full. 4,000 species had sent representatives to witness the trial. Billions more watched through the live broadcast that reached every corner of the known galaxy. Nothing like this had happened in 600 cycles. Everyone wanted to see how it would end. Commander Veleth entered the chamber in full ceremonial armor. Her bronze plates had been polished until they shone like mirrors. Her ceremonial staff was strapped to her back, a symbol of her rank and her family's ancient honor. She walked with her head held high, showing no fear. She was not worried about this trial. She had spoken with her lawyers and her military advisors. The worst that could happen was a fine or a temporary demotion. The Kalori Empire was too powerful for the Council to punish seriously. And even if the humans invoked the right of equal measure, what did she have to fear? She was a trained warrior. She had killed enemies far more dangerous than humans. She took her place on the accused platform and looked around the chamber with contempt. So many weak species, she thought. So many cowards who hid behind laws and treaties. The galaxy had grown soft. The human delegation entered next. Captain Taiho Park led them, walking slowly and calmly toward the plaintiff platform. Behind him came Lieutenant Hanayun and several other officers. And behind them all came Minho Beak. The Leth noticed that several aliens in the chamber physically moved away as the human engineer passed. She found this amusing. The man was even smaller than the human captain. His shoulders were slumped. His eyes were fixed on the floor. He looked like a broken creature, a father who had already accepted defeat. She almost felt sorry for him, almost. High Arbiter Solom called the chamber to order. His ancient voice echoed from the walls. "We are gathered to witness a trial under the right of witness judgment," he announced. "The accusers are the human delegation from the vessel Iron Will. The accused is Commander Velith of the Kalori Empire. The charge is assault against a protected being, a child." He turned his golden eyes toward Captain Taiho. "Present your evidence." Taiho stepped forward. He held up the evidence device. "This contains surveillance footage from Harmony Ring Station," he said. "It shows exactly what happened on the day of the attack. I request that it be displayed for all witnesses to see. High Arbiter Solom nodded. Granted. The footage appeared on every screen in the chamber and was broadcast to billions of viewers across the galaxy. It showed a small human girl walking through a corridor, looking at artwork on the walls. She was smiling. She was happy. She was completely unaware of any danger. Then Commander Velith appeared behind her. The footage showed the Kalori officer raising her ceremonial staff. It showed the blow coming down. It showed the child's head snapping to the side. It showed the blood. The chamber was silent. Many aliens turned away from the screens. Some made sounds of distress. Velith felt a cold sensation in her stomach. She had not known about this footage. The lawyers had assured her that the corridor's surveillance system was broken. Someone had lied to her. Captain Taiho let the silence stretch. Then he spoke again. "The child in this footage is named June Beak. She is 8 years old. She weighs 23 kilograms. She had no weapons. She made no threatening movements. She was simply looking at artwork when Commander Velith struck her from behind with a metal staff. He held up another device. This contains the medical reports. The blow shattered her cheekbone. It cracked her skull. It caused bleeding inside her brain. The doctors say she will survive, but there will be permanent damage. She may have seizures for the rest of her life. She will carry scars on her face forever." Taiho turned to face Commander Velith directly. And after this attack, Commander Velith filed an official report claiming that the child had attacked her first, that she acted in self-defense. He looked back at High Arbiter Solom. "This is not just assault. This is assault followed by lies. This is an attempt to escape justice by blaming the victim." The chamber erupted in noise. Aliens shouted in dozens of languages. Some demanded punishment. Some defended the Kalori. Some simply expressed shock. High Arbiter Solom raised his hands for silence. "Commander Velith," he said, "you may now present your defense." Velith stood up slowly. Her mind was racing. The footage had destroyed her planned defense. She could no longer claim self-defense. She needed a new strategy. "High Arbiter," she said, her voice strong and clear, "I do not deny that I struck the child, but I asked the Council to consider the circumstances. Humans are classified as Deathworlders. They come from one of the most dangerous planets in the galaxy. Even their children are potential threats." She gestured at the human delegation. "Look at them. They are small and soft, yes, but their history is filled with violence. Their planet is filled with predators. They evolved to be killers. When I saw the human child in the restricted zone, I acted to protect myself and my crew from a potential threat." Murmurs ran through the chamber. Some aliens nodded in agreement. The fear of Deathworlders was real, even if it was based on misunderstanding. Captain Taiho spoke up. "May I respond, High Arbiter?" Solom nodded. Taiho stepped forward. "Commander Velith claimed she was afraid of an 8-year-old girl," he said. His voice was calm, but there was steel beneath the words. "She claims that a trained warrior, nearly 3 meters tall, covered in natural armor, carrying a metal weapon, was so frightened by a child looking at artwork that she had to strike first. He paused, letting the absurdity sink in. If this is true, then Commander Veleth is either a coward or a liar. I do not think the Kalori would appreciate either description of their officers. Commander Veleth's face twisted with rage. You dare insult me, human? I dare to speak the truth, Taiho replied. You were not afraid. You saw a small child alone and decided to hurt her. You did it because you wanted to, because you believe no one would stop you, because you think humans are beneath you. He turned to address the entire chamber. This is not about one child, he said. This is about what kind of galaxy we want to live in. Should the strong be allowed to hurt the weak simply because they can? Should children be beaten for the crime of being curious? Should lies and false reports be allowed to cover up violence? He looked at High Arbiter Solom. I invoked the right of equal measure. The chamber fell completely silent. Even the floating screens seemed to pause. High Arbiter Solom leaned forward. Captain Park, he said slowly, you understand what you are asking for? I do, Taiho replied. Under the right of equal measure, the victim or their representative may inflict upon the guilty party the same injuries that were inflicted upon them. Since the victim is a child, I name her father, Minho Beak, as a representative. He gestured toward the quiet man standing behind him. Minho will face Commander Veleth in the combat arena. Whatever injuries he can inflict upon her will be considered justice under the law. Commander Veleth laughed. The sound echoed through the chamber, harsh and mocking. This is your champion? She asked. This broken little man? I will destroy him in seconds. She turned to address the watching billions. Let this be a lesson to all Deathworlders, she declared. You may come from a dangerous planet. You may have violent history. But when you face a true warrior, you are nothing. You are prey. She drew her ceremonial staff and held it high. I accept the right of equal measure, she announced. I will show the galaxy what happens when humans challenge the Kalori. High Arbiter Solom looked at the human delegation. He saw the calm faces. He saw the quiet confidence in their eyes. And he felt something that surprised him. Uneasy thought he had lived for thousands of years. He had seen many species rise and fall. He had learned to read the signs of coming violence, and everything about the humans told him that Commander Veleth had made a terrible mistake. Minho Beak stepped forward. He did not speak. He did not look at anyone except Commander Veleth. His eyes were empty and cold, like the void between stars. Several aliens in the chamber felt a sudden urge to leave. They did not know why. It was instinct. Something deep in their evolution that recognized a predator when it saw one. Minho was not large or strong or impressive, but there was something in his stillness that made them afraid. High Arbiter Solom spoke the formal words. The right of equal measure has been invoked and accepted. The combat will take place immediately. All witnesses will observe. The combat ends when one party yields or is rendered unable to continue. He paused, then added, May the judgment be just. The floor of the chamber shifted and changed. Ancient technology activated, transforming the central area into a combat arena. It was a circle about 20 meters across, with raised edges that prevented escape. Commander Veleth strode into the arena with confidence. Her ceremonial staff was in her hands, the same weapon that had broken a little girl's face. She began to stretch her forearms, preparing for combat. Minho walked slowly toward the arena. He stopped at the edge and removed his engineer's jacket. Underneath, he wore a simple gray shirt that showed his arms. The watching aliens saw something they did not expect. Scars, dozens of them. Burns from engine work, cuts from old fights. The marks of a life filled with pain and survival. His body was not large, but it was compact and hard, like a machine built for a single purpose. He picked up a metal rod from a toolkit that someone had left near the arena. It was simple and heavy, about half a meter long. Not a weapon, just a tool. Then he stepped into the arena. The arena was silent. 4,000 species held their breath. Billions of viewers across the galaxy watched their screens with wide eyes. No one moved. No one spoke. Commander Velith stood in the center of the arena, her ceremonial staff held ready. She was massive, nearly 3 meters of bronze armor and rippling muscle. Her forearms gave her advantages that most species could not match. She had trained in combat since she was a child. She had killed enemies in dozens of battles. She was, by any measure, a perfect warrior. Minho Beak stood at the edge of the arena. He was small. He was soft. He held a simple metal rod in one hand, hanging loosely at his side. He did not look like a fighter. He looked like what he was, a tired father who had not slept in days. High Arbiter Solum raised one of his branch-like arms. "The combat will now begin," he announced. "May the judgment be just." Velith did not wait. She charged forward with a roar, her staff raised high. She had decided to end this quickly. One blow would break the human skull. Then she would stand over his body and show the galaxy what happened to those who challenged the Kaloridad. The distance between them disappeared in a heartbeat. Velith swung her staff in a devastating arc that would have killed most creatures instantly. The staff cut through empty air. Minho was no longer there. He had moved at the last possible moment, a tiny shift that took him just outside the weapon's path. As Velith's momentum carried her forward, he stepped inside her guard. The metal rod came up and struck her first arm at the elbow. The joint bent the wrong way with a sound like breaking wood. Velith screamed and pulled back, but Minho moved with her. He was inside her reach now, too close for her long arms to be useful. He hit her again. The second blow took her in the knee. She felt something tear inside the joint. Her leg buckled, and she dropped to one knee dot. It had been less than 3 seconds. The chamber was completely silent. No one could believe what they were seeing. The massive Kalori warrior was on her knees, 2 of her limbs already broken, and the small human had not even been touched. Velith swung wildly with her remaining good arms. Minho ducked under the first swing and blocked the second with his rod. Then he stepped forward and drove his shoulder into her chest, knocking her backward. She hit the arena floor hard. Her damaged knee twisted beneath her, and she screamed again. She tried to rise, but her body would not obey. Too much damage. Too much pain. Minho stood over her. He was not even breathing hard. His face was still empty, still cold, still showing nothing at all. He raised the metal rod. "Yield," Velith gasped. "I yield. Stop this." Minho did not stop. The rod came down and struck her face. Once, twice, 3 times. Each blow was precise, calculated, controlled. He was not trying to kill her. He was doing something far more specific. He was recreating his daughter's injuries. The watching aliens understood now. They remembered the footage of the attack, the staff coming down, the little girl's head snapping to the side, the blood. Minho was giving Commander Velith exactly what she had given June. When he finished, Velith's face was a ruin. Her cheekbone was shattered in the same pattern as the child's. Her skull was cracked in the same places. Blood pooled beneath her head, just as it had pooled beneath June in that corridor. Minho stepped back. He looked down at the broken warrior for a long moment. Then he spoke. His first words in dazed dot, now she understands. His voice was quiet, almost gentle, but it echoed through the silent chamber like thunder. He dropped the metal rod. It clattered against the arena floor, the only sound in a room filled with thousands of beings. Then he turned and walked out of the arena. He did not look back. The chamber remained frozen. High Arbiter Solom stood motionless, his golden eyes fixed on the small human walking calmly toward his delegation. Medical teams rushed into the arena to tend to Commander Velith, but everyone else simply stared. It had taken less than 30 seconds. 30 seconds to destroy a warrior who had trained for decades. 30 seconds to prove that everything the galaxy believed about humans was wrong. They were not weak. They were not soft. They were something far more dangerous. Captain Taiho. Park stepped forward and placed a hand on Minho's shoulder. The engineer did not react. He simply kept walking, heading for the exit, heading back to his daughter's side. Luthen and Hannah fell into step beside him. Neither of them spoke. There was nothing to say. Justice had been delivered. The law had been satisfied, and a message had been sent to every corner of the galaxy. Behind them, the medical teams worked frantically to save Commander Velith's life. She would survive, they determined. The human had been precise. He had inflicted exactly enough damage to match his daughter's injuries, no more and no less. Her face would be scarred forever. Her bones would never fully heal, but she would live. She would live to remember. Ambassador Reith stood at the edge of the arena, his four hands trembling. He had tried to warn them. He had read the reports. He had understood, at least partially, what humans were capable of. But seeing it was different from reading about it. The human had not fought like a soldier or a warrior. He had not used martial arts or combat techniques. He had fought like something older, something more primitive. He had fought like a predator from a world where everything was trying to kill you, where survival meant being faster and smarter and more ruthless than anything else. Reith had seen Kalori warriors fight for his entire life. They were strong and skilled and disciplined, but they fought with honor. They followed rules. They expected their enemies to do the same. Minho had followed no rules. He had no honor in the traditional sense. He had simply seen an enemy and destroyed it with brutal efficiency. Every movement had been designed to cause maximum damage in minimum time. There was no wasted motion, no dramatic poses, no celebration of victory, just violence. Pure and cold and unstoppable. Reith understood now why the ancient species feared Deathworlders. It was not their strength or their weapons or their technology. It was this, the complete, absolute willingness to do whatever was necessary to protect what they loved. Humans did not fight for glory. They did not fight for territory. They did not even fight for survival. They fought for family. And when they fought for family, they became something that even the most powerful warriors in the galaxy could not stop. High Arbiter Solom finally moved. He walked slowly to the center of the arena and looked down at the broken form of Commander Velith. Then he raised his head and addressed the chamber. The right of equal measure has been satisfied, he announced. His ancient voice was heavy with emotion. Commander Velith received the same injury she inflicted upon the child. Jumbik, justice has been witnessed by all. He paused, and his golden eyes swept across the thousands of watching faces. Let this trial be remembered, he continued. Let it be taught in schools and discussed in councils for generations to come. Today we learned something important about the species called humans. He turned to look at the human delegation. They stood quietly near the exit, waiting to leave. Small and soft and seemingly fragile. They're not weak, Solom said. They are patient. They waited for justice through proper channels. They invoked ancient law rather than responding with immediate violence. They gave Commander Velith every chance to apologize, to make amends, to avoid this outcome. His voice grew harder. And when she refused, they showed us what Deathworlders truly are. Not monsters, not savages, but protectors. Guardians of their young who will stop at nothing to ensure justice is done. He raised his. branch-like arms in a gesture that encompassed the entire chamber. The Kalori Empire claimed that humans are dangerous because they come from a deadly world, he said. They were right, but not in the way they believed. Humans are dangerous because they love. They are dangerous because they protect. They are dangerous because when you hurt their children, they will hunt you across the stars and make you pay. He lowered his arms. This trial is concluded. Commander Veleth is guilty of assault against a protected being. Her punishment has been delivered by the right of equal measure. All species are ordered to update their diplomatic protocols regarding humans, especially regarding the treatment of their children. He looked directly into the cameras that were broadcasting to billions of viewers that did not hurt their children. He said simply, ever. The chamber began to empty. Aliens filed out in silence, each one processing what they had witnessed. Some were afraid. Some were impressed. Some were simply confused. But all of them understood one thing. The galaxy had changed today. The small, soft species called humans had revealed their true nature. And nothing would ever be quite the same. In the medical bay of the Iron Will, Minho Beak sat down beside his daughter's healing tank. He took her small hand through the special glove and held it gently. Geun was still unconscious. The doctors said she would wake soon. They said the healing process was going well. They said she would recover. Minho looked at her face through the blue healing fluid. The bandages were gone now, replaced by new skin that was still growing. There would be scars. There would be bad memories. There would be nights when she woke up screaming. But she was alive. She was healing. And the creature that had hurt her was lying in her own medical bay, learning what it felt like to have her face shattered. Minho closed his eyes and let out a long, slow breath. It was over. Justice had been done. Now he could finally rest. 3 days after the trial, June Beak opened her eyes. The first thing she saw was blue. She was floating in something warm and soft, surrounded by gentle blue light. For a moment, she thought she was dreaming. Then she remembered. The corridor, the alien, the pain. She tried to scream, but no sound came out. Then she saw her father's face through the glass. He was smiling at her. His eyes were wet with tears, but he was smiling. The doctors came quickly. They drained the healing fluid and helped June out of the tank. Her body felt strange, weak and new, like she had been rebuilt from the inside. But she could walk. She could talk. She could think. She looked in a mirror and saw the scars on her face. 3 thin lines running across her cheek, where the bone had broken and healed. They would fade with time, the doctors said, but they would never fully disappear. June touched the scars with her fingers. She did not cry. She was too tired to cry. Her father held her close. He did not say anything. He just held her, and she could feel his heart beating against her ear. Strong and steady and safe. Appa, she whispered. What happened? Minho pulled back and looked at his daughter. He thought about how to explain it. How to tell an 8-year-old that her father had beaten an alien warrior nearly to death in front of billions of viewers. That he had done it for her. That he would do it again without hesitation. But looking at her tired, scarred face, he decided the truth could wait. You got hurt, he said softly. But you are safe now. No one will ever hurt you again. June nodded. She believed him. She had always believed him. The footage of the trial spread across the galaxy within hours. Every species saw it. Every council discussed it. Every military commander analyzed it frame by frame, trying to understand how a small human engineer had destroyed a Kalori warrior in less than 30 seconds. The answers they found did not comfort them. Humans, they learned, had evolved as persistence hunters. They did not chase their prey with speed or strength. They chased it with endurance. They would follow an animal for hours, sometimes days, never stopping, never resting, until their target collapsed from exhaustion. Then they would move in for the kill. This strategy had shaped everything about human biology. Their bodies were designed for long-term efficiency, not short-term power. Their brains were wired to calculate angles and distances and timing with frightening precision. Their emotions were connected to their muscles in ways that other species could not match. When a human was calm, they were soft and gentle and kind. When a human was protecting someone they loved, they became something else entirely. The Kalori Empire issued a formal apology to the human delegation. They paid reparations. They offered territory. They promised that nothing like this would ever happen again. But everyone knew the truth. They were not apologizing because they felt guilty. They were apologizing because they were afraid. Commander Velith survived her injuries. Her face was reconstructed by the best Kalori surgeons, but the scars remained. She was discharged from the military in disgrace. Her family disowned her. Her name was removed from the records of her ancestors. She spent the rest of her life in a small apartment on a distant colony world, watching the footage of her defeat over and over again, trying to understand what had happened, trying to figure out how a creature half her size had destroyed her so completely. She never found an answer. Captain Taiho Park submitted a formal report to Earth Command. It was short and direct, as all his reports were. Diplomatic mission completed, he wrote. The right of witness judgment was successfully invoked and resolved. The alien who attacked our citizen has been punished under galactic law. Recommend updating all first contact protocols with the following note. Humans are peaceful unless provoked. Specifically, recommend adding a subsection titled Never Harm. Their children. The report was classified as essential reading for all alien diplomatic training programs. Within a year, every species in the galaxy had incorporated it into their educational systems. Do not hurt human children. The teachers would say, they will not forget, they will not forgive, and they will find you. Lieutenant Hana Yoon was promoted to commander. She stayed with Captain Taiho for another 10 years, serving on various diplomatic missions across the galaxy. She never had to fight anyone again. The reputation of humans had spread too far. No one wanted to test their luck. Before she retired, she gave one final interview to a galactic news network. The reporter asked her what message she wanted to send to other species about humanity. Hana thought for a long moment. Then she smiled. We are not looking for trouble, she said. We want peace. We want trade. We want to learn about other cultures and share our own. Most humans you meet will be friendly and curious and kind. She leaned forward. But if you hurt someone we love, all of that changes. We become something you do not want to see. We become the thing that hunted predators on a death world for 1,000,000 years. We become relentless. She sat back. So be nice to us, and we will be nice to you. It is very simple, really. Minho Beak returned to Earth with his daughter. He was offered medals, promotions, even a position on the Galactic Council's security team. He refused them all. He went back to his old job as an engineer. He worked on ships and machines and engines. He came home every night to have dinner with June. He helped her with homework and watched movies with her and told her stories about her mother. He never talked about what had happened in the arena. When reporters tried to contact him, he refused to answer. When other humans called him a hero, he shook his head. I am not a hero, he would say. I am just a father. June grew up. The scars on her face faded, but never fully disappeared. She learned to be proud of them. They were proof that she had survived something terrible. They were proof that her father loved her enough to fight for her. She studied engineering, like her father. She joined the space program. She served on ships that traveled to distant stars and met aliens from dozens of species. And everywhere she went, she noticed something strange. The aliens treated her with respect. They were polite and careful around her. They went out of their way to make sure she was comfortable. At first, she did not understand why. Then, on her 25th birthday, she finally watched the footage from the trial. She sat alone in her quarters on a ship far from Earth, watching her father walk into that arena. She watched him stand motionless as the massive Kalori warrior charged at him. She watched him move with terrifying precision, breaking the alien piece by piece. She watched him stand over the defeated commander and speak the only words he had said in days. Now she understands. June cried for an hour. She cried for her father, who had carried that violence inside him for so long. She cried for herself, for the little girl who had been hurt for no reason. She cried for the galaxy, which had learned a terrible lesson about what happens when you threaten human families. When she stopped crying, she sent a message to her father on Earth. It was simple and short. Appa, I finally watched the footage. Thank you for protecting me. I love you. Minho received the message at his small apartment in Seoul. He read it 3 times. Then he smiled and typed a reply. I love you too, little one. Always have. Always will. Stay safe out there. He put down his communication device and looked out the window at the night sky. Somewhere up there, among the countless stars, his daughter was living her life. She was strong and smart and brave. She had overcome everything that had happened to her and across the galaxy. 4,000 species told their children the same bedtime story. It was a story about a small human father who had loved his daughter so much that he had challenged an empire. A story about what happens when you hurt a human child. The story always ended the same way. Be kind to humans. The parents would say, be friends with them if you can. They are wonderful creatures who create beautiful art and delicious food and fascinating technology, but never, ever hurt their children, because humans do not forgive. Humans do not forget, and humans never, ever stop. 10 years after the trial, the Galactic Council built a small memorial outside the Grand Chamber of Judgment. It was a simple statue, showing a human man holding a child in his arms. Beneath the statue was a plaque with words in 1,000 different languages. The words were the same in every language. This is why we have laws. This is why we have justice. This is why the strong must protect the weak. Because if we do not, the fathers will come for us. And no force in the galaxy can stop them. The memorial stood for 1,000 years. Every species that visited the council headquarters would stop to look at it. They would read the words and remember the story. And they would go home and tell their children to be kind to humans. Because somewhere, in the stars, there was always a father watching. And he would never, ever let anyone hurt his little girl.